Hi Lily, I'm Captain England and I'm here to answer your 8th question. The first part of your question was how high do we fly and do we need oxygen when we're flying that high? Well, in the F-16 the service ceiling is over 50,000 feet. If you took the Empire State Building and stacked it on top of itself, that'd be about 40 Empire State Buildings. So when we're that high, luckily we do have a pressurized cockpit that keeps us around 10 to 15,000 feet, but we still wear an oxygen mask like this in the jet. And that's for 2 reasons. For one, when we're doing heavy maneuvers or aggressive maneuvers, it helps us to breathe. And then 2, it's a backup in case of an emergency. If we lose pressure in the cockpit, we still have that oxygen to breathe to keep us healthy. You also asked us if we ever hit any birds or bats. Well, an airport's a big wide open space and birds like to hang out around airports. So unfortunately every once in a while we do hit birds. If we're lucky, then the bird's going to hit on our canopy or somewhere on the jet where it's just going to bounce off. The canopy is really strong. They actually test these canopies by firing frozen chickens out of cannons at them. Most of the time they'll just bounce right off, but every once in a while they'll break through the canopy or break something under the canopy. If a bird happens to go down the intake of the engine, if the bird's big enough, it can cause problems with our engine that might cause us to get out of the jet. That's where the parachute's going to keep us from going splat. The last part of your question was about atmospheric electricity. It does affect us at altitude, especially if we're flying through clouds, precipitation, or in a dusty environment. What can happen is the friction from the air builds up static electricity on the outside of the jet, and then that electricity tries to discharge back into the atmosphere through the sharpest, pointiest parts of our jet. That's going to be any of our communication or navigation antennas. Luckily, the engineers that designed the jet had our backs on this. They installed static wicks or static dischargers, which are little antennas about the size of this pen, on the backs of the wings and all 3 of the control surfaces on the tail. That allows the electricity to get off of the jet away from the antennas. If it were to go to the antennas, it could cause a lot of feedback in our radios and potentially some problems with our navigation equipment, which we can talk about in one of your later questions. One of the cool things that you see at night when you're flying airplanes is something known as St. Elmo's fire. And that's when the static electricity builds up on the jet, and on the canopy you get little sparks of electricity that look like a tiny lightning storm across your windshield. Well Lily, I hope that answers your question, and we'll see you again in a few weeks when we answer your 9th question.